Welcome to another episode of Islamic Finance Weekly, where we discuss the value of non-interest market to an economy. This week's episode, we will discuss digital technology on Islamic finance in Nigeria and Africa. To elaborate further on the subject matter is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Tahib Digital Institute for Islamic Finance in Toronto, Canada, Mr. Fahad Siddiq. Good afternoon here from Nigeria. It's nice to have you on the show.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. First, let's begin with the advent of the fourth industrial revolution driven by digital technology. What can you say are the opportunities for the Islamic finance industry?
Yeah, well, see, realistically, industry has been growing year on year. We see, in 2019, we had 2.7 trillion asset close to that. But still, the industry is still somewhere, 30% of its potential. If we estimate today, the industry should be, should be estimated at around 7.8 trillion, but we are almost like maybe less than half of it. It's just because we are not able to leverage the digital technologies as much in the Islamic financial world. But I think that post COVID, I see the pace is going up. Technology has evolved a lot today. It's more scalable, more secure, resilient, very affordable, and we all know that fourth industrial revolution is all about digital banking, starting banks to food delivery to model like Netflix, Tesla. They are shifting dynamics. So Islamic finance industry is witnessing the same. As per Islamic fintech uh, firm globally, we have around 127 startups.
127 startups globally.
So the adoption rate is still, as I was explaining, that adoption rate is still slow. Embracing or migrating to digital infrastructure and application means IFI can reap the benefit of reducing their operating cost. While they also increase revenue. We are seeing it, places where there are large Muslim population, including Nigeria, Pakistan, Bangladesh, even Indonesia. The entire asset of Islamic financial industry is less than 10% to 11%. The only reason being is that we are not able to compete. The awareness is not there. We are not able to work jointly. So technology is still in silos. We are still struggling with the legacy infrastructure. So I think it's the time that we should create new industrial revolution 4.0, pace up our activities, embrace the digitization, which will help us to not only increase the entire assets, like industry which is standing at 2.3 to 2.7, but it's going to pace up to gain momentum by 3 times. I see, in Nigeria, I see a lot of discussion happening around digitization. We have seen in past that Nigerians were not hesitant to actually embrace new technology, whether it's e-transfer, whether it's about new startups. I think I'm very confident that if we are able to roll out digital Islamic financial products in markets like Nigeria, where the government, the regulator, as well as the banks are chasing the 60 million non-bankable population. I think launching a new bank, a completely Sharia compliant digital bank, will help us to address the market pretty fast.
Thank you so much for your insight. If I hear you clearly, you talk about Nigeria needs to adopt digital technology as we have over 60 million unbanked people in the country. Very interesting insight from you as you share the opportunities the industry can derive through technology to deepen the IFN market. Thank you so much for that. It is now a major fact that globally, Muslims in developing nations constitute a large percentage of those that are financially excluded. From your perspective, how can you technology to financial services?
When I was talking about the digital adoption and how we can target those unbankable population, how can we migrate those existing customer from the interest bank to non-interest bank? Let me just deep dive a bit. The straight answer is new bank. New bank, when I say new bank, it means a complete digital bank with no branches. It lives on cell phone, it lives on the digital grid. You won't see any branch outside, but you will be able to interact with the bank 24/7. You will be able to cash out using ATM. You'll be able to buy products. We have seen good initial success of RIS Neo Islamic Bank being rolled out in UK, and we have we have other non-banking Islamic financial institutions rolling out products such as personal finance, wealth management, using similar concept. But still, we are not there. I think having after RIS Bank launch this summer or late, little bit they're right now at MVP, so it's pretty much very early to say where they're heading. But if we compare it with the other new banks we have, the conventional one, especially in the United States, we have seen a 60% year-on-year growth. So holistically, private-public partnership must be formed at micro level to address those financially excluded demographics, and we must ask ourselves what are the problems masses are facing today, and we should go and try to solve that problem in the form of a Sharia compliant financial solution, both collectivity and collective, and at the individual level. And this needs to be not complicated, so we can do it pretty fast.
So Neobank is the digital financial services and mobile for digital platform.
Yeah, correct. And continuing that, based on my African experience with the Bank of Khartoum, Sudan, Charter One South Sudan, and DIB Kenya rollout, I see no problem on the supply side. People demand products. It's just like banks are a little bit slow to address those markets. What I see, we are not able to, address that required speed. For example, in Sudan, we were able to turn around the bank to be the first and the best retail bank in the country. And it had continued to win several international awards since then. We are also able to train staff on products and services, while we had to run different awareness campaigns to provide some sort of awareness to the consumer side. So, to summarize, awareness is one aspect, products is one aspect. If any bank can combine that both effort in form of digital adoption, I see no problem chasing up the target, moving those unbankable population into banking. Especially Nigeria has a very large chunk of youth population. They are all digital savvy. They like Facebook, they like Twitter, they like to talk about many things, many subjects. So why not a bank leverage those? I strongly suggest Islamic finance institution, whether fully licensed, they are operating as a fully commercial bank, or they are operating as a window operation within a conventional bank, or they are a non-banking financial institution. They must embrace the latest device and geographic agnostic technology, and they must migrate to be a completely digital financial service provider.
From your insight, technology, collaboration, and creating awareness still remain vital for Islamic financial institutions.
Correct. For example, rather than having an on-premises data, legacy infrastructure, investing in that infrastructure, banks should be able to more focus on the financial products and provide the necessary customer services. They must meet the consumer demand. So if we deep dive a little bit, we know that cloud is now more resilient, more secure. Many banks, for example, in Canada, National Bank of Canada is entirely on over the cloud. The New York Stock Exchange in US is on the cloud. There, we have seen 5 times more digital adoption in financial services providers. So why not, Islamic finance banks migrate to this digital infrastructure, focus more on product and service rather than dealing with the ITs issue, with the infrastructure issue, with the software license issue, with the scalability issue. A new bank set up on a cloud, for example, can be scaled up into many countries in maybe weeks or months at maximum. But having a legacy infrastructure on premise and using old technology will not help us to actually scale.
In terms of cooperation, how is the International Islamic Finance Institutions partnering with other stakeholders to promote products in non-interest finance?
So we need to first of all, in my experience, working with the Islamic Bank, with all those experts within, and then all those but what I've seen is that when we travel international and we collaborate, uh, there is a problem on the awareness side. So we have to create, a knowledge bridge between Dubai, for example, which is the hub of Islamic banking, and between the target countries. So, for example, when we travel to Kenya, we had to not hire, not only hire people from conventional background, but we also have to train them that what Islamic product is, how to structure a product. So I think this is one of the collaboration where we transfer the knowledge. Second one is the best practices that whatever we have learned so far. Is Dubai Sign Bank being there from 1974, for example. They have a lot of knowledge. They have learned a lot. So if we can piggyback on that information and transfer that best practices they are using, whether it be a standard operating procedure, whether it's a product structure, whether it's a profit distribution methodology, whether it's a treasury framework, whether it's a Sharia regulation and policy application, audits. I think, and most importantly, the innovative Sharia compliant products. I think this is one of the part where the local and international Islamic finance institutions can join hand, collaborate on product and services, brainstorm more about it, tailor it for the market need and roll out. The other part, the most important part is the training factor. In Sudan, when we set up this operation and we were, hiring people, we were hiring people directly from universities such as Khartoum University, and then we had to train them. So I think training is most critical component, which can train one person to segregate what is the difference between an interest product and non-interest product. And if they are not able to understand that, they will not be able to sell it. They will not be able to structure it. So I think training, and then product and services, best practices, operational knowledge. If we combine all this and we can bridge this knowledge and we transfer this knowledge to from an international mature Islamic institution to a new Islamic institution in the target country, that would really help. This is the area of collaboration. On the digital side of it, when we are, especially with the new banks, which are being set up, for example, Jais Bank in Nigeria, we have another great bank in Nigeria, which is pretty new. I think they should also invest some technology which should be flexible enough to integrate. Integration is everything today. We know in the UK we have PSD2 compliance, open banking and compliance, where now customer is agnostic. He can go ahead and then sign up with a fintech, and bank cannot stop them. So I think that if we are building a new infrastructure, a bank is new, it's pretty easy to pivot, and then apply some sort of integration factors there. In technology term, we call it webhooks, and then let it open for other lifestyle products to join in. So, for example, a bank can have a webhooks integrated with the teleco, integrated with the local association, integrated with the local masjids, integrated with the local supermarket, and then let them also piggyback on the financial product.
You listed some points here that sharing Sharia framework, regulation and policies, innovative Sharia compliant product structure, and training are key factors for promoting non-interest-based products and services in the market. This is well noted and very instructive for the industry across Nigeria and Africa. So you have over a decade and 7 years experience in Islamic banking and digital technology. As a co-founder and CEO of TAIF, how is your institute supporting capacity building for the budding non-interest finance industry?
TAIF, when we were thinking about TAIF and we were architecting it, we thought about a scalability. We thought about a marketplace, a one window operation, which anybody can just go and sign up and know everything about it, what is happening. How can I be an Islamic banker? So that was the holistic strategy about TAIF. So TAIF is a cloud-based, artificial intelligence-powered Islamic finance learning platform, and it has its own Sharia governing body. It supports 31 languages, so it's pretty much everybody can interact with it easily. It's device agnostic, so you can access TAIF training courses using your cell phone, your iPads, your Android tablets, your PC. The TAIF is on the mission to provide highly affordable, most updated and practical Islamic finance courses globally, offered directly to learners or non-interest banks alike. So not only we are going to offer these courses to the larger audience in the market, but a bank can also leverage those courses and roll out those courses in few hours for their staff. Uh, TAI will be going live in quarter 22, and inshallah, I request everyone in Nigeria to follow us to sign up on our wait list at taif.ae, inshallah, and we will be sending out communication pretty soon, inshallah.
I commend your institute for the laudable stride in the area of capacity building and trainings for the Islamic finance industry. So, as we all know that digital technology is becoming vital to the global market, how can Islamic finance thrive through fintech?
We, as we have discussed, the likes of the integration and the web capability is very important to connect with fintechs, the local fintechs, the international fintechs. FI must be able to expose customer information to third party pretty quickly rather than having a multi-month project. They should have customer consent as the regulation requirement, where the customer will have the complete liberty to switch between banking product and services. In such a Islamic finance can keep their customer while offering those services provided by the other third parties using their own platform. So I think that's the most important point or key takeaway today: integration, collaboration, and technology as an enabling.
Technology, yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and pleasure is all. Thank you very much for having me.
The COVID-19 pandemic has brought to the fore the importance of leveraging technology to drive business operations. The non-interest finance market is not left out in the adoption of digital technology in order to gain global relevance. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode on Islamic Finance Weekly. To watch more videos, read news stories, reports and analysis on Islamic finance, log on to our website, www.kosherng.com. Also, you can engage us on our social media handles displaying on the screen. Till we come your way again next week, thank you for watching and bye for now.